We are completed with the first leg of the PBA Tour in 2025, and here's a quick recap of everything we've seen and a little bit of a preview of what we expect over the next couple of months. Starting off the year, we had the PBA Delaware Classic, and we already covered this event a little bit, so we're going to go a little bit quick through it. But first of all, Grandpa Lefty ended up winning the event, throwing the black hammer a majority of the event, and absolutely crushing them. He was averaging 240 through match play at times. He made it a pretty easy path to the championship, which was really crazy to see. It was very, very fun to see a lot of the new bowlers in there trying to compete on a really weird cheetah oil pattern. This pattern had about 36, 37 mils of oil, which was a crazy high amount. I don't know if they were trying to get rid of urethane on it or if it was compensating for how old the lane panels were, but what it did cause is a lot of really big, strong asymmetrical balls to come out, and then also a lot of urethanes to come out. So the lefties really preferred the urethanes. A couple of the righties preferred urethanes too, but then switched over to some stronger equipment. Some actually switched to some shiny equipment near the end of the day, but overall, it was Grandpa taking away this event on this really short pattern. Moving on to event number 2, we had the US Open being the second event. We had a ton of wonky oil patterns that the bowlers were on. Scores were very, very low for this event. So the format, the match play of this was just head-to-head match play. Winner of the match of the head-to-head singular game got 30 extra bonus pins after you cut to the top 1/4 of bowlers. And on this one, congrats to Tackett for winning. He had an incredible run. He was nearly last place after about 1 to 2 rounds. And then he dominated in every field as EJ does, and he was able to weasel his way all the way to the step ladder and then absolutely crush the step ladder. He was throwing a Super GT in the ladder. That was the really weird oil pattern with little splotches on it. That didn't have much volume, so all the bowlers were using really weak equipment. We covered this one also on the channel about why Andrew Anderson was throwing a shiny Hustle X-Ray. Well, it was because there wasn't much oil on the lane, and that's what really worked in match play. So congrats to Tackett on this one. It was a very fun tournament to watch. If you want to watch an absolute grind of a tournament, go check out qualifying on Bowl TV. Days 2 and 3 were flat patterns, one super short, one super long. Go check that out. It was wild. It was very, very tough to score on those. Jumping over to the third event was the PBA Illinois Classic, and this event brought out a 42-foot, slightly easier oil pattern, and this was a two-handed show of just domination. The two-handers absolutely crushed this event. I believe in the round of 8, there were 7 two-handers, and then Sean Rash were the only ones that were left. So why this happened is because the 42-foot pattern, if you are highly rev dominant, like a lot of the two-handers are, then it turned into throwing urethane, which was weird. They made it kind of play like cheetah, where a lot of the one-handers who didn't have as high of a rev rate weren't able to do that, and the pattern played much, much more difficult. So the two-handers absolutely crushed this event. Sean Rash was able to make his way to the TV show. He got smoked immediately, and then this event was won by Santu. Santu of Team Motive absolutely crushed the finals. He is such an interesting bowler where he has about 3 bowling balls, it seems like, that he uses. I only see him throw like 3. And then he crushes everybody with them. That Black Venom and the Primal Rage are the main 2. He seems to just drop massive numbers every time he can throw those bowling balls. So huge congratulations to him on the Illinois Classic. Now, the Illinois Classic also had a separate event going on, and it is everybody's favorite, the Roth Holman Doubles Tournament. So the way it worked is that bowlers bowled in the Illinois Classic, and then that helped seed them for the Marshall Holman and Mark Roth doubles match play. So however they did in qualifying, they got put into match play then, and then they competed head-to-head against other bowlers. Top 5 made it to a stepladder, which at the time of recording has not been posted yet on the TV schedule. They're using it in early March. I believe March 2nd is when the actual telecast goes live. In that, Jason Belmonte and Bill O'Neill are the #1 seed. So there's a lot of really interesting people in that one. We have Bill O'Neill, Sean Rash, Matt Ogle and Sean Rash also made it as another pairing. There was a couple other interesting ones. The Roth Holman doubles is always really interesting because you see some people who usually don't make TV shows sometimes making their way up. And this year, Bill O'Neill and Belmo, who are some of the best in the world, haven't made a TV show, so it's good to see them on for that. That was just a separate event. It wasn't really different oil patterns or anything. I believe they put out different oil patterns for match play, a short and a long, but then they split it now into a step ladder that we'll see very soon. And the final event was the Pete Weber Missouri Classic. This was an event dedicated to Pete Weber. This is the second year that it has run. So it is just a normal tournament at the end of the day, but it was named after Pete Weber, one of the best to ever do it. And this event was really interesting. They put out a longer pattern. I believe it was 45 feet long, and it actually played like 45 feet, which was crazy. Usually longer patterns on the PBA Tour don't play that much like a long pattern. They play a little bit shorter because of how much rev rate there is. But this one was tough. It was a very tough tournament. In this one, the lefties were virtually shut out. I don't believe a lefty made match play. Jacob Buttroff may have made it. He would have been the only one, but he started about even on day one. Otherwise, the lefties just did not have a chance. And that happens on the PBA Tour sometimes. They put out a pattern and sometimes the left just does not play well. This was a ton of righties that made it. This one for his second title of the year was EJ Tackett winning the entire tournament. We had some crazy things go on in match play. Timmy Tan, Malaysian bowler, ended up making the show because Kyle Troop needed a mark and he left a pocket 5-10. Absolutely crazy leave from him. However, in the step ladder, Timmy Tan needed a strike to shut out Dom Barrett, and he left a stone paralyzer 5-pin. It was very crazy how all of that worked out. Timmy Tan absolutely had an incredible run on the TV show. Huge props to him. Ryan Barnes made his first TV show of the year also as the 5 seed. He got smoked. He was just in the wrong part of the lane, which happens. You only have one game on TV. But then EJ Tackett ended up coming away with his second win of the year. So let's look at Battle of the Brands, and then let's look at some PBA Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year standings. Now let's talk about Battle of the Brands. So I'll cover that really quickly. Battle of the Brands is a competition between all of the bowling manufacturers that are on the PBA Tour right now. What they do is before the week begins, they pick a team, a roster of 5 players, and then however those 5 players do, they get points based on their standings. I personally originally thought that they were actually having competitions during the tournament or after the tournament, 5-on-5. Unfortunately, they're just picking some rosters, they're getting some points, and then at the end of the year, they're going to have a little more of a competition. But after this week, because 3 of 4 titles so far have been by Motive staffers, Motive is crushing everybody. I'll have a page on the screen right now, but Motive has 27,488 points right now. Brunswick is coming into second place, 20,695. Dom Barrett helps skyrocket this. Something a little bit interesting with the points that I'm not a big fan of is they are not evenly spread out. Like you don't get, 10,000 points for first, 9,000 for second, 8,000 for third. I believe people who finish in first, second, or third get a ton of points, which is why the guys who are on staff with Brunswick and with Motive who have won titles or been close in winning titles, those points are so high. Because Storm, 900 Global, and Roto have been doing really well this year. However, Storm is only coming into third place at 20,445. And they also have not won a title this year, which is partially why. But they've had a lot of TV presence so far. Coming in last, though, is who I thought was the sleepers who have not been doing well, either based on the choices they're making on who's on the roster or just in bowling in general, and that is Team Deviate coming in with 11,895 points. Unfortunate from them, but good job for Motive winning a lot of tournaments. Really cool to see, especially that EJ Tackett guy. So speaking of EJ Tackett, let's talk about Player of the Year. Now let's look at the PBA point totals for the season. So unfortunately, I only have the top 12 point earners right now. This is the best graphic I could find from the PBA website. While the PBA website is really good, it could use a little bit of work to be able to find these numbers a little bit easier. But looking at it, unsurprisingly, EJ Tackett is in first by, let me see, about 6,000 points. He has 14,000 points by winning 2 titles, with one of them being a major. Did he already win Player of the Year? No. Is he pretty much making his path much easier to win back-to-back, 2-back, something the Chiefs couldn't do? Yes, 100% he is. He is absolutely crushing everybody right now. He is just on another level of being able to compete. Now, he didn't make the cut in the 3rd event, I believe it was, the Illinois Classic, after the U.S. Open, but before the PDW event, which is a little bit surprising. He said that he bowled really well, according to some of the commentators, but he miscut by like 6 pins or something, and it was tough, after the U.S. Open, he had to go immediately to the next event. He didn't have much time to waste. The timing between events is very short from the TV show to the practice session for the next event. Looking at some other names on the list, we have Chris Vi coming in second. He made a couple of TV shows, so it makes sense. I believe he's made every cut this season. He was hurt at the last event, though. He still made top 8, I believe, and unfortunately lost, but he was very injured. I believe he said that he was 10% in match play. That's all he could put into everything. He was still whacking him, don't get me wrong. He was still averaging like 210, 220. But he was injured in the last event. He still made a lot of match plays. Otherwise, Graham Fa, who won an event, is also on the list. Andrew Anderson coming in 4th. Jacob Buttruff. Tim Foy, who's made a couple shows. I believe he made 2 shows, and then he's also on the Roth Holman double show coming up. Santu's on the list. Ryan Barnes on the list, making his way for Rookie of the Year. He is leading in rookie points by, I believe, 15 positions. If I'm correct on that, Cam is around the 20s right now from a post that I saw on Instagram. So Ryan is really making the path really clear for him to make Rookie of the Year, which is really, really good for him. Otherwise, Tom Doherty's on the list, a guy who hasn't really made a TV show. He made 1, I believe, so far. Chris Prather, who made 1 TV show, I believe it was a US Open show, is then rounding it out in 12th place. Do any of these names seem surprising to you? Let me know down below in the comments if you think any of these are surprising or if this is really what you expected. A couple names we're not seeing: Anthony Simonson, Jason Belmonte. The 2 names I thought were going to be high on this list aren't on the top 12, which is kind of crazy. So now let's look at what the next couple of weeks look like. Now, March is going to be the biggest month of PBA bowling of the year by a landslide. Starting in the first week of March and running for 2 full weeks is the World Series of Bowling out in Reno, Nevada. This is going to be an incredible event. We have 4 different animal patterns that are going to be used. We have a ton of amazing competition going to be going on. A ton of talent, both internationally and domestic. Should be some incredible events. Whoever dominates the World Series of Bowling, I believe, will give themselves a really good path to win Player of the Year and try to compete with EJ unless he does it. Or they can make it into that top 8 point totals. That's going to be a massive time for a lot of people. A lot of bowling is going on. This would be the time that I would recommend getting a Bowl TV subscription. There is an insane amount of bowling coming up because right when the World Series is over, we don't really have much time before the USBC Masters out in Michigan. The USBC Masters are coming up at the end of the month right after it. So we have the World Series into the giant USBC Masters tournament, which is an absolute grind, which has a sold out field right now. Crazy amount of people going out to that event. That one is always a really good time. I always recommend, in my opinion, the USBC Masters is the most fun event to watch in the year because it's all head-to-head competition. And you see some amateurs that might be from your state competing against some of the best players in the world, which is a really cool thing to watch. Otherwise, you have some matchups you never really see before. You have some really cool upsets that can happen because the event is just so, honestly, so random and so wild because it is just 5 to 7. It's really 7 matches between bowlers. So very crazy in that regard. March is going to be absolutely wild. After that, we have the Tournament of Champions, we have the Players Championship, and then we're already getting to the end of the year. We've had 2 months since the tour started. So this, even though this is the first leg completed, this is almost the halfway point. So with that, we're going to have a lot of other PBA videos coming up. I hope you guys enjoy this recap and this preview of what's to come. Let me know what else I could add in future videos. I'm still getting used to all of this news coverage and learning how to make videos like this. So please let me know what could be improved in the comments. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you on the next one.